Hi, welcome to Fusion Beads. Today, in this technique video, I'm going to show you how to make a messy wire-wrapped bead. So let's take a look at all the tools and products we'll need to make this. In this first video in the messy wire wrapping series, you will learn how to use a head pin and a bead to make a messy wire wrap, along with the tools that are used. By the end of this video, you will be able to make a messy wire wrap bead to create a pendant or charm that can be used in either earrings, necklaces, and bracelets. Building off of basic wire wrapping skills, messy wire wrapping is the next step in wire working. So let's check out our tools. The tools that you need to create a messy wire wrapped bead are exactly the same tools that you use for regular wire wrapping. You will be using some chain nose pliers. You can either use the long nose or the short nose, whichever you prefer. You will want some round nose pliers, and you'll want some good flush cutters. So let's take a look at the products we'll need. So to make a messy wire wrap bead, you're going to need a head pin and a center drilled bead. Today for my example, I'm using 26 gauge sterling silver head pins that are 3 inches long, and I'm using just a 6mm round crystal. As you can tell from this example here of the messy wire wrap, this technique takes a little bit more wire than a traditional wire wrap does. So that is why we're using the 3-inch head pin. I chose to go with the 26 gauge because I think the wire size matches kind of the delicate feel of the crystals. But you can use 24, 22, or even 20 gauge. Just take note that obviously the thicker gauge of wire is going to give you a chunkier look on your wire wrapped bead. So I'm going to get set up and I'm going to show you how to make these. So to make your messy wire wrap bead, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take a head pin, and you're going to want to take one bead, and you're going to want to string that bead onto the head pin, just like so. And this is how you start. This is very similar how you start a basic wire wrap. If you aren't familiar with basic wire wrapping, I would recommend checking out our basic wire wrapping video just to get brushed up on that, and then you could proceed on with this video. So now that I've got my bead on my head pin, I'm going to slide that out of my way there. I'm going to take my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to want to grab the wire right above the bead. And I want to make sure that it's nice and flush against that bead and that the bead is seated all the way down onto the head pin there. Then I'm just going to take my finger and I'm going to bend the wire over at a 90-degree angle so that I've got a nice 90-degree bend there. Then I'm going to put my chain nose pliers down. Then you're going to want to take your round nose. And depending on how big you want your loop to be is depending on how far towards the tip or how far back you're going to make your loop. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers. I'm going to set them in that bend that I've created with my chain nose. And I'm going to just put it about halfway through. I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to roll it back over the top of the pliers like so. So you can kind of see that there. So it's just starting to form that loop. Then I'm going to rotate my pliers, but not removing them out of the loop that I've just kind of started to make. And then I'm going to continue to wrap around. And then I just always adjust mine a little bit so that it sits there. So see, now I've got a nice little loop on there. So then I can take my round nose out. So I've got my loop, and now I'm ready to create my messy wire wrap. So I'm going to take my chain nose pliers, holding onto that loop, making sure you're holding onto both sides of it for stability. You're going to take your wire and you're going to just wrap in a free-form, organic fashion around your base wire there. So to do that, I take the end and I just start to wrap, and I will wrap down, and then I'll wrap back up. And then I'll just wrap down again, and I'm just kind of wrapping really organic freeform. As you can see, there's no really rhyme or reason to it. It's just like you're just wrapping however it kind of feels for you at the time. And see, this is why you need the 3-inch head pin, because we used pretty much this whole head pin. And two, as you're wrapping down, the wire starts to work harden, so it gets a little bit harder to continue to wrap. So now that I've got my messy wire wrap done there, I'm going to take my wire cutters, and then I'm just going to trim that tail wire as close to the wraps as possible. And I'll set that aside. And then if that tail's sticking out at all, you'll just use your chain nose pliers and you'll just tuck it in. Mine is already pretty well tucked in, so I've got one done there. So as you can see, it's a different look. It is, very organic and kind of freeform. And not everybody probably will like this look, but it is kind of a fun look. And in the right application, it can really give your jewelry just a unique look. So I'm going to show you how to do that one more time. So again, just taking a head pin and a center drill bead, you're going to slide your bead onto that head pin. Make sure it's all the way down at the bottom. Take your chain nose, you're going to grab right above that bead, and then you're just going to bend your wire over at a 90-degree angle. Then you're going to take your round nose, and you're going to put the round nose in the middle, or in that bend there. And again, I'm just going to put it about halfway down the pliers. And then you're just going to take your wire, and you're going to roll it back over the top. So you kind of create like a half lollipop there. Then you're going to rotate your pliers without removing them, and then you're going to continue to wrap it around. So your loop is like that, and then I always just adjust mine a little bit so that it's straight, because you want it to be straight as it's sitting on top of your bead, not off to the side a little bit. So then, now that I've got my loop created, I'm going to take my chain nose pliers. I'm going to grab both sides of that loop there for stability. I'm going to take this tail wire here, and I'm just going to start to wrap in an organic freeform fashion around the bead. So you can wrap up, and then you can wrap down, really however you like and however it's kind of flowing. So got my wraps done. I'm pretty happy with that. I like to make sure just everything is covered and you don't see any of the main wire coming from the loop or anything. So I've got that. Then I'm going to take my wire cutters and I'm going to trim that tail as close to the wraps as possible. And if I need to tuck in that tail, I just use my chain nose pliers and tuck that in. So there you have a messy wire wrap bead. And this is a kind of just a fun look that can be used in a lot of different projects. You could put this on a jump ring and add an ear wire and make some earrings. You could put it on a jump ring and add it as a few charms to a bracelet, or you could even put chain through it and have it as a necklace. So be sure to check out our next video where I will be showing you how to do a messy wire wrap bail using wire and top drilled pendants.